in person. So I hope this is okay with everyone. So I think that is it for the housekeeping. But yes, if anything, just please pop it in the chat box. Yes, so now on to this first webinar this year, which I'm really looking forward to. So the topic of this particular webinar is how do we get the message out about the importance of closing institutions. So when we talk about deinstitutionalization, we generally tend to focus on where people live, where they're going to live, I don't know what kind of support services they will need, how should these be developed, who should provide them, etc. But we focus less on the wider context, and that is public opinion, or in general, the knowledge of maybe people themselves, the wider public, about what is actually going on here. What do we mean by deinstitutionalization? What do we mean by the right to independent living? How can we make sure that the public understand that disabled people have the right to independent living and that they're supportive of it, rather than being a barrier to the process themselves. So I'm just admitting still people. Personally, having followed some deinstitutionalization processes, I have seen stories of people protesting against disabled people moving from institutions into the community, and in general, kind of promoting this idea that disabled people belong in institutions, that they should not be living in society. So it can be public opinion and public resistance can be one of the barriers to the process of deinstitutionalization. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We'll be talking to some people who are trying to actually fight that, and who are trying to raise awareness in society about the right to independent living, about the importance of people living in the community, about the unacceptability of segregation and exclusion and marginalization of disabled people. So we were supposed to have 3 or 4 speakers, but unfortunately one speaker, John Dalrymple from Scotland, dropped out last minute because of an illness. So we will hear today from 3 speakers. We will be starting with Cool Crips. They will tell from Greece. So this is Spiros and Greg. I will not attempt to pronounce your last names. You can introduce yourselves. Yes, they will tell you what they're doing. And I might ask them some more questions. I would just like to ask you, Spiros and Greg, to tell us a little bit first, maybe about the situation in Greece in terms of independent living and deinstitutionalization, so that we have a little bit of a context before you start speaking. And if anybody has questions, please save them for when Spiros and Greg are done speaking. So I will bring you in now. I'm just going to pin them so we can see them better. So the floor is yours, Spiros and Greg.
Thank you, Ines. So our main goal today is not to speak about cool creeps or deinstitutionalization. Our main goal is you to pronounce Dadanidis and Chrysikos, our surnames, very quick, 5 times each. So as it gets to DI, deinstitutionalization, in Greece, it tried to start in 2017, but it never really worked. And in terms of independent living, there is only one association called iLiving. Antonia is here representing iLiving, which is actually a body of a few disabled people trying to advocate about independent living many years, but there are always more obstacles to face when a door opens. So we don't really know how many disabled people are in institutions right now. In Greece, the idea of an institution is okay, not only for disabled people, but also for children, but also for refugees. You might have listened to refugee camps. These are institutions, actually. There are also a few older people, people over 70 years old, who live in institutions as well. Not as many as in other countries. This is a taboo. The institutionalization of older people is not okay in Greece. But for the disabled, for children who don't have what we call traditional family, etc., it's okay. There have been scandals and talks about very inappropriate behaviors in institutions in Greece, but always the narrative didn't ask about the existence of institutions, but it always described and asked what we should do to make it better, not to erase it. So in 2017, there's been a protest, and actually some disabled activists got into an institution called Lehena. Lehena seems a bit like Williamsburg in the US. It's a similar image and story, but 50 years later. And there has been an actual first talk about deinstitutionalization. I cannot say the word in Greece, and it was the first step. It never really got any further. It only worked for another institution in Athens, and now we just wait and wait for something better. We try and be as active as we can, but there's not much being, I don't know, further. We cannot be positive here. That's the idea. Yeah, if I wasn't clear, please ask.
No, that's perfect, Spiros. Thank you for setting the context. So maybe you can tell us a little bit now about Cool Crips, who you are, what you're doing, why you're here.
I'm the communication manager.
Go ahead, Greg.
The blonde guy. So we started this project, let's say, not really organized, like 2 years ago. We started on Facebook only. And what we do is disability mainstreaming and increasing the visibility of disabled people. We started doing this through funny posts, combining a funny meme with more serious but always sarcastic text, trying to communicate issues issues regarding disability and what is concerning us. We base our propaganda, let's say, is based on the social model of disability, and we try to add like a cool, sexy, sarcastic perspective on every action we do. You know, in Greece, disabled people are depicted like mostly like people who are suffering or like living a tragedy, or the other side is like superheroes who are able to overcome disability. So we are just trying to normalize this, disabled persons, and to talk about issues that most people in Greece don't even know. And because we believe that, you know, mostly when we talk about disability, we do that either in a, you know, in a sad way, or on the other side in an angry way. You know, the wider public is not able to, the message is not able to reach the wider public. So we try to make it more approachable, to make it more fun, to make it more beautiful. So so people will more easily understand the basic principles about disability. For example, that that disability and impairment are two different things. For example, that's the main principle. We started on social media. We started on Facebook, then we expanded on Instagram, also on YouTube. We grew really fast, actually, maybe because also the lockdown, because of COVID-19. So now we have like around 30,000 likes on Facebook and 20,000 follows on Instagram. And we decided that we don't want just to post some funny memes and cool texts, but also organize something for disabled people. So we decided firstly to become an NGO, so we can organize our actions more legally, first of all, and more in a more organized way. And so we started to organize inclusive events. For example, like an inclusive party or inclusive stand-up comedy festival. As you can see there, always we try to keep this cool, funny perspective. And in this event, it's not only about disability. You know, it's not, the disability is not the main topic of these events. For example, the party wasn't only for disabled people. It was like a truly inclusive event where you could see people with different bodies, different origin, different sexual orientation, different genders. And we believe that if you bring people together, because that's also a problem that, for example, we never have in schools disabled children. So non-disabled people don't see disabled people ever in their life, starting from the childhood. So we will also try to bring people together in a not so, you know, because most of the times events about disability are these raising awareness events where someone is just talking and the audience is sitting down and just watching. We want to bring people together and interact, and trying to compact and eliminate this the stereotypes in society about disabled people. So we started organizing events. We also filmed a travel show, where again, it's not only about disability, it's mostly about a group of friends that's having fun on Greek islands, because, you know, group of friends have also disabled people in. It's not only, and we don't hang out only with disabled people or only with non-disabled people. Group of friends should be mixed, and that's what we show actually. And Spears, what I'm forgetting? I forget something.
The podcast as well, but it's not that important. As Greg said, he's the communication manager because he's blonde and he's good at it. I'm the politics guy here, and we need to speak about the connection with the DI. This I cannot say it was. And the DI process in Greece had these two institutions, one in Lechena, which is rural Greece, and one in Athens. The one in Athens has the previous workers, the workers that still work on a regular institutionalization basis. And it also has an NGO called Tandem, which is small, and it works on the other, on a different perspective, on the perspective of getting these people out into the society and living into the community. So when we had the stand-up comedy festival, we tried and knocked as many doors as possible to get people from this institution in Athens to watch the totally accessible stand-up show. So we had 12 people and also 12 assistants coming there for free with, well, they paid, the institution paid the tickets because we wanted them to pay. So that was a good move. And we had those people whom we visited, whom are friends of us, who are disabled like us and live in a totally different situation. And we actually tried to show to the system that there can be experiences out of the institution if you work for it. It's really small, and it's not really important to us, but for the people who came, it was something that changed their daily life for a few weeks. They would discuss it, but it highlights the importance of the exclusion, the life that disabled people in institutions don't live, which is really simple, like a night out from 7 to 10 to watch a show. So what we saw in this festival and what we try to actually realize after every post, every event, is that we make disability a discussion between disabled people and non-disabled people, but in the right terms. In this stand-up show, we actually realized that disabled people who didn't know the comedians came there because of the accessibility or of quick grips, and non-disabled people came there because of the comedians. So we created, it was a trap, and they fell into it. And both of them lived an experience that's really not common in Greek daily life. So we always realize after discussions with those people who came in the events or who watched the memes that there is an impact which is not political or legislative or something like that, or there are no campaigns and these kind of things, but we try and by laughing and having memes, etc., to make fun of the problem and then make it easier to discuss it. Like Greg says all the time, if you solve the problem to somebody straight away, they will feel threatened and they will be defensive because of this threat. So we try and mock the situation so the discussion can be on an equal basis. Greg, shall we show some stuff from the page? Excuse us that all of our memes are in Greek, but we do have one in English. Do you get it?
Yes.
Does your
Okay.
screen sharing work, Greg?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Might have to describe the images as well, if you can.
yeah, sure. Wait.
Do you have any questions before we?
While Greg is setting it up, I was just wondering, I was thinking whether you create yourself all the images and all the memes, and also if you, for the events that you organize, if you're getting any funding from this from, I don't know, the authorities, or you're just, I mean, how do you basically fundraise for these events?
Okay, 90% of the memes are Greg's. He's the communication guy. I do write most of the texts when I do. And we also try and include other people day by day. Right now we do have a young disabled woman. She's 16, and she writes about a disabled girl in a school for non-disabled people. We do create memes, and she writes. Actually, our last post yesterday was about school trips. When you travel with Greg, here you go. When you travel with school for
Can't open it now.
more than one day, and you can see that when a school trip is organized, and the disabled student says, "I want to come as well," and the board of school says, "Okay," and then doesn't discuss it at all. It just says, "Okay." So they say, "Okay, but the bus, the coach isn't accessible, the hotel isn't accessible," etc. As it gets to events, some of them are self-funded, some of them are funded by Athens municipality or projects by Athens municipality, and our travel show, or also the stand-up show, we prefer to discuss with companies like a brewery or a travel company or an insurance company, and they will pay the fee as a marketing tool. For example, we prefer to be a marketing partner of a company instead of a social partner of a company. Is that clear?
Yeah. So more like a kind of a typical sponsorship rather than some.
Yeah, we prefer marketing sponsorships.
Yeah.
Rather than philanthropy and sponsorship like that. So,
and we also have our own merch. If you can see it here.
Is short for merchandise, I believe.
Yeah, short for merchandise.
So you're showing a T-shirt with
I'm showing a purple hoodie.
I'm sorry.
With the logo of Cool Crips on it, and we also have T-shirts. And soon we will also have socks, because we think that socks are really cool with a sheep on it.
And why is, so your logo is a sheep with an artificial leg, and she's holding or he, I don't know, it is holding a white cane and wearing black sunglasses. So why did you pick this the sheep?
It also has an earring.
And an earring, sorry.
A golden earring, like it's important. Would love the socks. Thank you, Paolo. We'll send them to you. I'm trying to figure out the EU expenses because taxes differ. So the logo was okay. We're not that meaningful. I have to say, we're not that meaningful. We didn't want to be these guys who talk with the artist who creates the logo, and they're over the artist saying, we should change that, we should change this. We just had 5 ideas, and one of them was a disabled animal, whatever. And the best friend of mine is a graphics artist, and she created the ship. And actually, we only changed a few things. Like we added the earring and we changed a bit the cane, and it was ready. It's not its impairments are 2, so we don't have only 1 impairment. It's not
also a bit blind, because the glasses are also a reference for blind.
Yeah, that's the white cane as well.
Yeah.
And the ship fits well because ship is neutral in Greek. It's not he or she, it's they, so we prefer not to have a gender. And but we didn't think of that in the beginning. We realized it afterwards, right? And also we didn't want a ship on a wheelchair or an animal on a wheelchair, because that's the most common thing, and there is the misunderstanding that disabled people are only the wheelchair users, and disability has an identity that's not appropriate for the rest of the people, etc., etc. So we wanted to make this clear from the beginning, and to include all impairments that want to be included on this idea, because one of the greatest disability problems of the disability community and movement is that we don't have a common voice. We do tend to be like blind people for the blind people, wheelchair users for the wheelchair users, etc. So we wanted to be clear on that, to advocate for people with mental impairments, and all this help to not create an extra stereotypical behavior, actually.
And another funny meaning is that in Greece we call someone a sheep if he's like a too loyal follower, like without asking many questions. So as we finally say that we are doing propaganda, so having a sheep as a logo is a nice connection.
Our followers are sheeps.
That makes sense. Can I ask you thanks a lot. Can I ask you what reactions you're getting from people to your posts? I mean, is it, and do you know who is I mean, is it mainly young people who are following you? Because it seems, maybe to me, it's more, because of the humor, I don't know, it's maybe more targeted at younger people. But are you do you know if your audience is bigger than that, and what kind of, is it positive, only positive reactions are you getting, or also negative maybe?
First of all, it's mainly young people around 20 to 35.
Okay.
Young in Facebook, there are also older people. You can see it from the interaction, the comments, the feedback. Instagram is more youthful, maybe, let's say, than Facebook. It's mostly women.
Okay.
Like it's like 70% women, 30% men. It's like it was a quite shock for us that it was like that's a big difference, because our sense of humor is not like targeted on one gender, or we also make like fun with the sports events, or some of our memes are based on sports, and we are also men, so many of our memes are based on personal experiences. So it was quite interesting that our audience is mainly women. The feedback is mostly good, because also I think most of the followers are still the followers who are already interested and ready to learn. As we get bigger, we also get also more comments that are negative, or like saying not agreeing with what we say. But it's nice because we get messages both from disabled and non-disabled person. Many disabled persons say that thank you for saying that what we believed in so many years, and no one said it, because it's like really it's really important to realize that it's not your body's fault. It's the barriers that create disability, and it's like really refreshing and self-loving to realize that. And many disabled people send this to us, and also many parents of disabled kids and persons. I think this is the toughest audience, parents. Most negative feedback is from parents of disabled children. But I think we don't get really hate comments. So until now, it's still an easy process to read and answer the messages we get.
No, the only not so good comments or messages were Greg, some parents, some let's tell them what they call themselves are experts on disability, but non-disabled experts, especially when we talk about education. And also there are some really far left people who get to be aggressive with us because our way of discussing it's not as aggressive as they want it to be, because of the humor, of the fun, of the
Yeah, and it's more basic. We have to be basic so we can approach a wider audience. So because the level of knowledge about disability in Greece is like really low. So we have to really start from scratch to talk about these topics.
And also we had once a message by a minister.
What sort of message?
Because we didn't talk in a great way about her or about her work, and she was she didn't like it.
I wonder who she was.
You know who she was. Come on.
But I was going to ask you, Spiros, yes, about engagement with politicians. Do you kind of put them on the spot as well? Do you try to engage with them in any direct way?
because of bipolarism in Greece, we don't really want to be attacking one party or another, because then it will be there with them or there with us. So we get to be spotting the importance of that. Actually, disability is a political issue, first of all, and probably only political issue. And on this basis, we discuss about the state, about governance, about political barriers, actually. So yes, there are politicians following us from various parties, and but we don't really engage with them. We don't discuss with them. We can actually write a message, but it's never too edgy, or it never gets personal. Because Greg, continue.
Yeah, and first of all, we try to stay away from this social media arena sometimes, because if we start reporting and blocking war, I think it won't be beneficial for what we do and for the disabled people. Because if, for example, if our page is being blocked or is down, what's the point? What have we done with that? And we mostly engage actually with journalists who try to publish articles about disability. And in general, we're trying to, if we want to criticize something, we criticize the policy, not the person who is implementing it and developing it.
Yeah, what we can say that we achieved is event planners or journalists or people who take some decisions on a company to actually call us before doing so and ask us about, do you think that I should write this down or that? How would I make this event accessible? Do I need to describe these images, etc.? So they get to be more engaged with the world of inclusion. Actually, I had a call 2 hours ago from a journalist about the benefits of inclusive education, and yeah, she called me to ask many things, but my name or our brand will not be written on the article. She just had a few questions and she wanted to be sure. So that's a great step to make it more mainstream.
Oh, that sounds great. And what are your plans for the future? Do you plan to develop in the same direction, or also do you plan to continue engaging with people living in institutions, maybe like the example you've said about bringing people to the comedy, to the night out?
First of all,
we want to bring people on the parties. That's the first goal, because that will be great.
And we want to develop, a consistency in our actions, because, still it's like it started like a hobby at the beginning. So it's, as it gets bigger, we have to shift from, just making fun and just making what we like to be more professional maybe, and to be more consistent in what we do. Yes, engaging with organizations about DI and institutions is one of our goals. We are in contact with Tandem, what that Spiros mentioned before. We also try to expand in other areas, like, for example, sex education about and sexual assistance for disabled people. We also try to organize other events for example, music events or something on YouTube. We try to get bigger to approach, to reach a larger audience, because at the end, this is what counts. You know, we have to spread the message to as many people as possible. So we're working on this direction, and we also have to rest sometimes, because you know, every 3-4 months we are like 2 weeks off because of how it's called, the burnout.
Yeah, you should not get burnt out. Well, thanks so much. That was really great. Maybe you could pop the link to your Facebook page in the chat, so people can also have a look. You were showing us some images. I was thinking, they're quite difficult to describe actually, because they have this kind of the message is not, it's more in the combination of the image and the words, right? They're not so clear, but I'm hoping you have some alt text, so people you do. Okay,
we have alt text for all our memes. It's not easy to translate, because it's not only translating words, but we also have to adjust the context, because we are talking about Greece most of the time. So it's not easy to also to adjust the context of the post to a more international context. But yes, all of our memes and pictures and all the videos we make are accessible to people with visual and hearing impairments.
Well, thanks so much, Greg and Spiros. Cesar, you had a question. We can take, I was going to say we go to the next speaker and then we take questions, but go ahead, Cesar, if you have.
Sorry, and the travel show we have has also English subtitles, so you can watch it. I will send the link as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Greg. And Spiros, that was really, you probably don't like the word inspiring, but I hope it gave people ideas about things they can do, you know, in their countries as well. It sounds like a great way to spread the message. Cesar, you were waving at me. You don't want to speak now. Okay. So we will move to the next speaker, who is Anna Vojnović-Zorman. She is a journalist and let me just put her on, pin her so we can see her better. If I can just find her here. Just a second. Oh, there she is. There you go. This is Anna. Welcome. Hi, Anna. I can see her big on the screen. So Anna is coming from the slightly different angle, right? So Greg and Spiros and the Cool Crips, they're a very grassroots initiative. And Anna is coming from the side of the mainstream media, who are obviously extremely important for public, for bringing not just the idea of deinstitutionalization and the right to independent living, but in general disability rights into the mainstream, and educating people basically, and making sure that they are aware, understand, accept what is going on. So Anna is going to be talking to us a little bit about the role of the mainstream media in the processes of DI. And before Anna starts, we have a little video Anna shared with us about her employer, right? Which is the radio television of Slovenia. Yes. So I will share that. It's just 4 minutes. And if you have any questions for Spiros and Greg, please keep them. Once Anna does her presentation, then we will take any questions for either of the speakers. And we have a bit more time. This is because John is not with us. So let's start with the video. Okay. Share sound. Okay. Okay, this is it.
The world is full of events, and television provides us with a useful window onto the world. This is the headquarters of RTV Slovenia, emitting both radio and television programs to serve more than 2 million Slovenians every single day. More than 2,000 people are working daily to inform, educate and entertain the public, all the while trying to make the programs accessible to everybody. Today we are visiting the television division, where long corridors lead us to one amongst many rooms. A pack of journalists is working from dawn till dusk, gathering information on current affairs. The task of a journalist is a tiresome one. They are responsible for gathering and working on information from various sources. They write headlines, structure sequences and stories. They hold meetings and discuss various events. News anchors present the news with excellent speaking voices and communication skills. It is here where the group effort of the cameraman, sound and lighting technicians and the control room makes it possible for the news anchor to present the latest information on the evening news. TV journalists, heading for a field report, must prepare important background information and decide how to present the latest developments in a particular case. Going through the main objectives with the anchor and photographer is essential. Cameramen capture footage for our favorite TV shows, documentaries and news and sporting events, along with filming the legislative sessions and other important political events of the day. Video editors have a natural flair for storytelling. They put the cherry on the top of the hard work of journalists and cameramen. A sound engineer is responsible for the quality of the sound recording. They are also responsible for recording audio descriptions. Audio description is one of the accessibility techniques used. It provides additional commentary that explains what is happening on screen for the visually impaired audience. Audio describers produce audio description scripts for TV programs and then use their voices to record them. This is a member of a dedicated team of broadcast captioners. They provide real-time text captions for dialogue in TV programs using the agility of their fingers and rapid typing skills. Such forms of captioning can be quite advantageous for those individuals who are hearing impaired, as they are better able to understand what is said without having to read the lips of those on screen, which is especially important when people are using face masks. The text can be seen on RTV Slovenia programs with the help of teletext, and it can be activated with the help of the remote control. Subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing appear as texts along the bottom of the screen. The coronavirus crisis brought sign language interpreters into the media spotlight in many countries around the globe. The interpreter needs to effectively facilitate communication between deaf people and those who hear. Sign languages use hand and finger shapes, movement, body language and facial expressions to convey meaning. TV interpreters are a bridge which helps to understand spoken words for those who use sign language. Since 2018, the Broadcast Access Services team has been operating within RTV Slovenia. The team organizes accessibility services. The team administers the portal Dostopno.si, which works as a radio and television hub using special access technologies. A very heterogeneous group of our current and potential users are those people with reading difficulties. These are people with intellectual disabilities, people within the autism spectrum, people with dyslexia, people with dementia, the elderly with impaired vision and hearing, also those with impaired intellectual abilities, and we could list more. This wide-ranging group of people needs information in a specially adapted form, which we call Easy Slovene. All of this is RTV Slovenia, an independent and impartial public broadcaster which creates content to inform, educate and entertain more than 2 million people in Slovenia and abroad.
Okay, that is it. Thank you very much, Anna, for sharing this video. I hope everybody could see it okay in the end. And now we will, and it's really good to see the easy to read information actually that is available on from the Slovenian TV.
Yeah, I also did. Yeah, this part is really important.
Yeah, so Anna, I'll let you speak now. I hope your connection will be good, but if not, you can switch off your camera in case it
Me too.
in case it's problematic. Maybe before you
Yeah, I'm having a little problem.
you can switch off your camera if you like. I'm just going to remove the pin so we're not looking at the black screen, and you can speak like this. It should be better. So Anna, before you talk about your work in relation to deinstitutionalization on TV, maybe you could just tell us very briefly where the process of deinstitutionalization is in Slovenia, unless you would prefer Juš to just give us a little bit of context.
Yes. I don't know.
Okay, so Juš, do you mind? Juš is here with us as well.
Actually, yeah, I know that we have like 2 pilots. Okay, maybe it's better if he talks about it because he's like looking into it every day, and I cover all the different topics, which includes vulnerable groups of people. So I think it's better that he speaks about these actual 2 pilot projects that are taking place.
Yeah, sure. So Juš, if you could just give us a bit of a context, that'd be perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just briefly. So the institutionalization in Slovenia is not a new idea, but unfortunately, very little has been done until now. One part of the biggest social institution was closed effectively, and now we have our friends who run there the Museum of Madness, which is really good thing. And of course, many institutions have opened some group homes, but none of them really closed completely. Right now we have 2 pilot projects, one in a special social institution. So it's in major part for people with mental health support needs. And the other one is for people with intellectual disabilities. And so these are 2 projects that are now slowly coming to the end. And they are funded from European Union, and right now our ministry and many others are preparing a DI strategy for, I don't know, next 7 or 10 years. But yeah, this is I think more or less the current state of yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Juš. And people who were with us at the last webinar last year, we were able to have a discussion with the people involved in these 2 pilot projects. So some of you will remember that. So now I will let Anna speak. Anna, please go ahead. I hope we will be able to hear you.
Yes. I hope my connection will be okay. So I don't know, you said to present ourselves. So as you know, I'm a journalist at Slovenian National TV, where I have been working for 17 years now. I started with daily news, and later on I was working on a broadcast show, Koda, where we were mainly focusing on consumers' rights. And last July, I joined the team of colleagues at the Department for accessibility. That was truly the best thing, because I always wanted to be a part of the fight for the rights of vulnerable persons, the ones who in most cases can't raise their voices. So in a way, I feel it is our obligation as a journalist working on a national biggest media institution to do so. Of course, we must do it objectively and in accordance with the highest standards in journalism. Well, you already saw how accessibility on the RTV Slovenia works. So maybe I can describe what I do at the Department for Accessibility, where, as I said before, I haven't been working for a long period, but I'm really happy to be here. And this way I'm able to report on important topics that are often neglected in other media, and DI is certainly one of them. Maybe I could just tell you. It was said in the movie the Department for Accessibility was formally established in 2018, although we have been providing accessibility services for many years before that, and forming a special department and its inclusion in the official organizational chart of the national media. This represented a recognition of legitimacy and equality in the field of accessibility in relation to other traditionally established professional units. So we strive for accessible television, radio, and web offerings. We create two specialized web portals. This is where I work. So one of them is the stopno.c and the other one is enostavno.info. And our work covers several fundamental areas. So we strive for an inclusive placement of topics related to the lives of people with disabilities in our radio and television programs, as well as on our websites. We introduce and developed accessibility techniques such as audio descriptions and audio subtitles, subtitling, and include sign language interpreters in our programs. We also participate in international projects for developing accessibility techniques and new television and radio formats. They are financed by the European Union, and we actively participate in the European Broadcasting Union, IBU, where we are part of the Access Service Experts Group. We also work closely with users, associations, and organizations for people with disabilities and public institutions responsible for this field. The Department of Accessibility cooperates in development and coordinates the implementation of new production processes at TV Slovenia, in addition to organizing and monitoring the process of equipping the programs with accessibility techniques for the blind and visually impaired and for the deaf and hard of hearing. So maybe something about easy language, which in my opinion is really important for information to come, so the disabled people can get, all vulnerable groups can get information. So that happened when COVID epidemic reached Slovenia. So we just we found out that people with reading disabilities have very limited access to information, and that's why we created a special section of easy to understand news on the stopno.c, and the section was named Lahko branje, which means easy to read, and was primarily focused on giving the basic updates on the COVID-19 situation and useful information regarding the epidemic measures and restrictions. And in the summer months of 2020, the section was thematically expanded also to other areas like politics, sport, interesting events around the world, and so on. And finally, on 4th January 2021, it became an independent web portal in easy to understand language. And it remains connected with also website stopno.c. And we also connect with like the main website of the national TV. It's called MMC. So a lot of our interviews and articles are like published also on the main site of the RTV web portal. And yes, the creation of the specialized portal ENIL-ECCL is strongly linked to the participation in the EU Erasmus Plus program EASIT, in which RTV Slovenia is one of the partners. The concept of easy to understand audiovisual journalism is one of the subjects of research in the EASIT project. To create easy to understand journalistic content is very important to understand the mechanisms of journalism, the needs of the end users, and to have the knowledge to create the audiovisual content in a simplified way. That the Enostavno info portal is divided into five sections. I already told that. So every day we publish from 1 to 3 articles supported with graphic and photographic material. We are also in contact with end users, and I think this is really important, so they can tell us what they like, what they don't like, so we can improve all the time. And institutions, non-governmental associations, which are working with our target readers. The findings of the EASIT project and the training materials that have been developed will be very useful for the further development of the web portal Enostavno.info and for training new professionals in accessible audiovisual journalism, such as journalists specialized in writing in easy to read or plain language. And our last project that we joined last year is CELSI. It's spoken easy language for social inclusion. And CELSI will deliver a model of communication in spoken easy language together with partners from academic fields and from NGOs. We will research what has already been done regarding the spoken easy language in Europe, and our aim is to produce recommendations and strategies for spoken easy language. The final result of the CELSI project that ends in October next year will be an online tool in different languages. So our aim is to have TV and radio news in easy spoken language in the future. So as for my work, I must know the legislation very well if I want to work here, because I often have to search for or even demand answers from state institutions. I have to understand the needs of people with different disabilities and communicate them to the public in a very clear and impartial way, and comply with the highest ethical and professional standards. That is why I try to meet as many people as possible with different kinds of disabilities. And I'm also in constant contact with different organizations for people with disabilities. I also try to keep in touch with the professionals from various areas and check the progress on the field, not just make one article about certain topic and then forget about it. Because people in this 17-year experience, I find out that people don't want to read about legislation. They don't understand it, but they understand stories very well. They understand personal declaration. They understand interviews. So that is why I try to find stories that and individuals who are experts in different fields of my research, like Nick Crosby, which is unfortunately not with us today, and Ines, who gave interview to my colleague Andrei Tomajin last December. Apart from that, I also write news in easy language for webpage enostavno.info, and I also do audio descriptions for the blind. I like to do them very much because I rest from hard topics for a while, and I improve my vocabulary by doing them. So that's all. That's what I have prepared. But if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Anna. You were cutting off a little bit, but I think we could hear you despite of that, so I didn't interrupt you. Thank you for sharing about your work. I was very pleased, actually. Yes, I got a number of questions from one of Anna's colleagues at the end of the last year about the right to independent living, which was published, and about deinstitutionalization, which was published on the website of the Slovenian TV, and I liked it. Yeah, I liked it because it was in writing, and the journalists so often misinterpret what you say when you give an interview. So this way I could make sure that, it was actually, I mean, of course, I provided the answers, so it was what I wanted to say. But we've had some bad experiences in the past where, they are trying to maybe sensationalize, or I don't know, they just put their own spin on what you say. And you say one thing and they publish something else. So this was really a really good experience. I wanted to ask maybe also just a note. We don't like the word vulnerable people when we talk about disabled people, because vulnerable means that you're just vulnerable per se, but people are vulnerable to exclusion or to segregation because of things in society, because of the barriers. I know in my Croatian is my native language, so we also use this word vulnerable a lot for any kind of group which has difficulties, which is marginalized, in fact, for various reasons. But I wanted to, so just a little note, but I wanted to ask you, Anna, maybe do you follow these pilot projects as well? I mean, or is the ministry that is in charge of this process somehow proactively trying to involve you as, the mainstream media in this whole process? Like, are you kind of an official stakeholder in this, or is this then, would this be completely at your own initiative if you do something?
I think it's our initiative. It's initiative of my editor or our group we talk about, but it's like we have a lot of topics that we have to cover, not only deals to institutionalization. DI is one of the projects. So yes, of course, we have a schedule, and when we make one article and then we wait for about 3 months, and then we make another, or we make an interview, or we go somewhere else. I'm trying to, like, once a month or once in 2 months, to do something on DI. Maybe not directly these two projects, because we have like other non-governmental organizations that are doing their process of DI, and that are really good stories, like successful stories. So it's nice to share them. I am waiting now. One girl, she is, I think, muscular dystrophy. I don't know how do you say this in English. Mišićna dystrofia. So she's on a wheel.
She's a disabled person. Yeah, it's enough.
Muscular. Yes, she's a disabled person, and she was living for 15 years in an institution, and she decided to go to live on her own. So she moved in February, and now I'm waiting like maybe 3 months, and then I will do an interview with her to see how she's doing, to tell me how is it to live on her own. So I think by showing these good examples, by like following the stories, this is the way to make public realize how important these things are, how good the impact of moving to taking care of yourself is on one person that actually did it. So yeah. I don't know. I also had an interview with one mom. That's really scary, because some parents, they didn't want to institutionalize their children, so they didn't put them in an institution. Children stay with them, but now they are so old that they cannot care for their children anymore. So this is also one group that needs the same thing that people from institutions need. They need this community to like accept them, and they need all the support, the same support as the people who want to go out from the institutions and live independently. So I also do this kind of stories. So really different stories, but the same thing. So there, yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I think from certainly from ENIL-'s perspective, the interest of journalists, you know, in these topics is really welcome and important. And we don't want media just to report on situations of torture, or, you know, I mean, even if somebody lives at home without any support, maybe it's not considered a very newsworthy story, but I mean, it is in a way.
But it's really, yeah, it's nice. It's really nice. I'm really proud of Slovenian national television to have this department, because we are covering these topics every day, every single day, and a lot of these topics is not interesting for other media. They don't do it. Like maybe sometimes when something big, major happens, but we do it constantly. We do it every day, and I think this is really, really important. And like Spiros said, it's important to do interviews with all these organizations that are trying to make points. Oh, my English is really bad.
No, it's all right, Anna. It's good.
So
we got the message.
Yeah. So yeah, in that way, that we make sure, by this we make sure there are less stereotypes, that people with disabilities are more accepted, that they are becoming part of society. So yes, and I really enjoy this, because I meet so extraordinary people. So it's a privilege to do my job. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Anna. I mean, I think certainly in the region of Central and Eastern Europe, it is very unusual to have you know, a TV station, a national TV or national main media organization so interested. I know examples from, I think BBC has kind of I forgot the name now, but they had a special kind of disabled led site with stories and videos and interviews completely run by disabled people. I can try to remember and share it, but certainly in Central and Eastern Europe, it is very unusual. So thank you for that. And good practice, of course, not only unusual, but unusual in a positive sense. So we have some time for questions. I wonder if anybody has, Donia, yes, go ahead, please. Just unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, everyone. I have a question for Anna. I'm wondering if you are allowed to share some stories when they are not the successful ones. Let's say about a cruel situation in an institution where the government has a responsibility, when the government has to do something, but it doesn't do what they have to do. Are you allowed, in general, is there a freedom of press in your country?
think you're done. Yeah. So basically the question is if you're allowed to be critical.
Yes, of course. Yes. The only limitation, or I don't know, maybe better word is rule for journalists, is to be objective, to check information. We always check information. We have to have really reliable sources. So if we like follow all these ethical and professional standards, of course, not only we must say, in my opinion, we must say if something's wrong, if something terrible is happening in an institution. Yes, it's our duty to report about it, of course. And yes, I believe we have freedom of speech still, because we have some problems on the national television at the moment, but still I think we absolutely have the freedom of speech in Slovenia.
Thank you, Anna. That's good for Slovenians. Maybe, Anna, before I go, there is a question in the chat. I will read it out, but also maybe you could, I was thinking you could share in the chat. You mentioned some links, you know, of your platform, the accessible platform, even if it's in Slovenian, maybe people would like to, you know, check it out. So if you could share it in the chat. And meanwhile, the question that we have is, so in order, from Letizia, in order to communicate effectively and convince everyone, we need arguments based on factual data. Do you have any figures or know of any studies on the cost of institutions versus the cost of community-based care services in Europe and possibly per country? It seems very hard to find public statistics. We have people here from several countries. Maybe somebody would like to share. I can say from our experience, there is a study that was done. I can share it here in the chat. It was the so-called Declock study done by Jim Mansell and some other colleagues. This was already, I think, in 2000 and around 2006-07, which was on the cost of institutional care. I have personally tried to do a similar study at some point, but it is very difficult to compare actually the costs because you have, well, an institution, yes, you can get the cost, kind of the budget of an institution. But there are institutions that are very expensive, you know, that have a big budget. There are institutions that have a smaller budget. It very much depends on the country and who they employ, whether they employ unqualified staff or whether they have to employ nurses and doctors. And then you have also people in the community will have, living in the community will have various costs, from somebody who needs 2 hours of support per day to somebody who needs 24 hours of support a day. It is very difficult to compare, actually. And what we argue at ENIL certainly is that no matter what the cost, you cannot put a price to human rights. I mean, it may be cheaper for some people, it may be more expensive for some people. You can have somebody who has very high support needs, who lives in an institution. Maybe they cost very little money in that institution. Maybe they would cost a lot if they live in the community and 24-hour and have 24/7 support. But that is not a reason to deny them their human rights just because it's more costly. But certainly, there are many instances when living in the community is cheaper than living in the institution. I could put this, I don't know if anybody wants to come in on that, maybe from your countries, if you have any, if there were any studies that were done, please please raise your hand. No, it's hard to do studies like that, and a little bit pointless, I should say, as well. Spiros, go ahead, please.
Of course, the point is that even if it's more expensive, it doesn't really matter. But there is an important fact here that we don't have data for disabled people in Greece. We don't really know how many we are, and we don't really know how many disabled people live in institutions as well. There are some numbers, but it's not really clear. Antonia can be more described about that, because she worked for the MEP, for Stelios, and in the state, and she knows better. Like she's years older than me, and she knows the field. But yeah, when we don't have data for how many we are, how could we know the cost or something like that?
Thank you, Spiros. Yeah, I can agree on data. And Dania, would you like to complement that?
As many older than Spiros, I was thinking that.
Okay. Sure, you appreciated that.
Yes, I was just thinking that there's no way to have that kind of data in any country, because no government wants to have that kind of data, because then it would be clear which is the right way for everyone, not only for the disabled persons, but for the economy of the entire state.
Yes, no, I agree, and I mean, everything has a cost. If you want to provide proper, education to all children, it has a cost. I mean, there is a cost.
No, I meant
yeah, go ahead, Adonia.
I meant the other thing around that. It's I believe it's less expensive to have the proper services in the community than these huge buildings with so many people working for positions that has nothing to do with the scale of the persons living there, like directors and sub-directors and secretaries and all the stuff that you don't need when you are living on your own. So this data would prove that DI is something more beneficiary and that costs less in many cases.
Yes, thank you, Adonia. And actually, that was the main conclusion of this big study that I mentioned. And I'm trying to find. I don't know why I just cannot find the actual link to it, but I'm happy to share it. That was the main conclusion. Do we have any other questions? We are close to our Cesar. Did you have a question? No. Do we have any other questions for our speakers? There's no questions, and thank you, Anna, also for providing links in the chat. It's been really interesting to talk to both you and also Greg and Spiros. Yeah, I think we need both kinds of things. We need the mainstream media. We need also people like you, Spiros, to reach different audiences, basically, with different kinds of messages, but all with the same goal of kind of breaking prejudice, stigma, I don't know, fighting ableism, and just like you say, bringing disabled people out into the public, and disabled and non-disabled people together at parties and wherever, just in regular situations. So it's been really interesting. We will post this recording on the on our YouTube page for anybody who missed the webinar, and we'll continue this year with 2 more webinars at some later point in the year, also hearing from people what they're doing on the topics of deinstitutionalization, independent living. And thank you also to Adoni, Ayush, Cesar, Susan, I think, was involved in putting this webinar together, and Nick. Yes, thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Anna.